Okay, here's page 2 of the notes. This is going to be a different method, a different way of doing these problems. We're going to clear the denominator out. So the first thing you're going to see that I do on this problem right here is I'm just going to put a 1 underneath there. Now, it's to do all three denominators. They want you to do the LCD or the common denominator. So really all you have to do, remember, is grab this x and this x. So I know I'm going to have an x in my denominator. And then the only other thing I have left to grab is that 3 right there. So my common denominator, my LCD, is a 3x. And I just got it from looking at the denominators. Now I'm going to come down here to C and go ahead and do the excluded values. That's where you take each denominator, which the first one is just an x. So x cannot be 0. That's all I would need to do on that one. When you have a 1 in the denominator, there's not a variable, so I don't have to worry about that. The other one I have to do is a 3x. So 3x cannot be 0. Divide both sides by 3. And when you get the same thing, x cannot be 0. So that's your excluded value. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite the original problem right here, which is a 4 over x plus a 7 over 1 equals a 2 over 3x. And then I'm going to put my LCD, which is this 3x, by each term. So I'm literally just going to write it right here, and right here. And so what's going to happen is this x and this x cancel, and then I'm able to multiply that 3 times that 4, and I will get a 12. Then I'm going to see if anything cancels in this section. It doesn't. So 3x times 7 is a 21x. Equals. Next section, the 3's cancel, the x's cancel. The only thing you have left is a 2. And that's in a much easier equation to solve. Y'all know how to solve these. So I'm going to subtract 12 on both sides. And I'd get 21x equals 2 minus 12 is a negative 10. Divide both sides by 21. And you get x equals negative 10 over 21. So they told us to circle our solution. As long as we make sure it's not this domain restriction, as long as it's not a 0, this can be an answer. So this is definitely my answer. So that is that problem all the way done. Now, number 4 looks a little scary, but what I'm going to do for you first is I'm going to go ahead and factor these, and that becomes an x plus 5 and an x minus 3. Okay? It says choose a method. I'm just going to do the easiest one for this one is just to get rid of your denominator. So I need to find my LCD first, okay? So you look at your denominators. I'm going to grab this x minus 3 and this x minus 3. So there's part of my denominator. And then I'm going to grab this x plus 5 and this x plus 5. That's the other part of my denominator. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my domain restrictions before I start marking things out and canceling and going crazy here. So look at each denominator. So I'm going to start this one. X minus 3 can't be 0. So I'm going to add 3 on both sides. And x cannot be 3. Then I'm going to do this one. X plus 5 cannot be 0. So I'm going to subtract 5. And x cannot be a negative 5. I've already done this one and I've already done that. So these are my only 2 domain restrictions. Okay, so now what you do is you take your LCD and you write it by every term. And I'm just going to try to stick it right up here. So I'm going to put the x minus 3 times x plus 5 here. put the x minus 3 times x plus 5 here, and the x minus 3 times x plus 5 here. So let's see what we can get to cancel. So in this first one, goodbye x minus 3. So I am left with this x and this x plus 5. So I'm just going to write it here because I'll show my work in a minute. The next one, the x plus 5's cancel, and I'm left with this plus 7, so plus 7, and that x minus 3. Then I have my equal, and then I'm left with x plus 5's cancel, x minus 3's cancel, and all I have left is a 24. So now I can distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Keep going. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times a negative 3 is a negative 21, and that equals 24. So I'm going to combine any like terms I can. So the first thing I see is I can bring down this x squared. The next thing I see is I have a 5x plus a 7x, which would give me a 21x. Oop. And then I have this minus 21 equals 24. Once I see I have a squared, more than likely I'm going to end up having to factor. So I'm going to subtract this 24 and get it over by its friend. And now I have x squared plus 21x. These become a negative 45 equals 0. So now here comes the fun part of factoring. Break up your x's. Factors of 45, there's a few of them. There are 1 in 45, 3 in 15, and 5 and 9. But we want them to subtract and give you a positive 21. So the ones that you can subtract, I wrote 21 and it's 12. Oh my goodness, I'm losing it. This should be right here when I did the 5x plus 7x, that should be a 12x. So then if I bring that down, this should have been a 12x. I'm losing it today. Yeah, so 12x. So that makes more sense. So we want them to subtract to be a 40, to be a 12. So these signs make things subtract. So it'd be a positive 15 minus 3. So what we're going to do is set each of those equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 15. And my answer is x is a negative 15. That can be an answer because it's not one of these restrictions. So that is definitely an answer. Then when I solve this one, if I add 3 on both sides, I get x is 3. If you come back, that is one of my restrictions. It says x cannot be 3. So this cannot be an answer. So what did I discover? The only answer is x is a negative 15. Okay. All right, let's do this next one. We're going to first, I'm going to do the restrictions, domain restrictions. So take your denominator. So x plus 3 cannot be 0. And x minus 2 cannot be 0. So I'm going to subtract 3. So x cannot be a negative 3. I'm going to add 2. And x cannot be a positive 2. So when we do our problem, we've got to make sure our answers are not a negative 3 and a 2. So the next thing I'm going to do is my LCD. I'm going to do it right here, even though they didn't ask. Okay, so the first thing I see in my denominator is this x plus 5. The next thing I see in my denominator is this x minus 2. That's my LCD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that LCD by each term. So I have an x plus, did I say 5? Oh my goodness, it should be a 3. I don't think I'm losing it. Okay, let's try again. So x plus 3 times x minus 2, x plus 3 times x minus 2, x plus 3 times x minus 2. All right, let's see what we can get to cancel. So in this first group, goodbye x plus 3's, I'm going to bring down this x minus 2 and this x minus 2 somewhere where I can do some work. I think I'm going to do it right here. Okay, then I'm going to go back over here, cancel the x minus 2, and I'm going to go ahead and write this part down. Then I have my equal. When you come over here, nothing cancels. So I am just going to bring this down, because if I multiply 1 by it, it's still that. All right, here we go. So I'm going to unfortunately have to do FOIL. So x times x is x squared. X times a negative 2 is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. And negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. I'm going to go ahead and combine this and get x squared minus 4x plus 4. At least this one's not as hard. This one I just have to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12. Then I have my equal. FOIL time again. X times x is x squared. X times a negative 2 is a negative 2x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times a negative 2 is a negative 6. I'm going to go ahead and combine my middle and get x squared. And then negative 2x plus 3x is a negative 1x. Or, excuse me, a positive 1x minus 6. Okay, this is where I like to combine anything I can combine. Okay, so I'm going to first go ahead and bring this x squared over, because the good news is that cancels and that cancels. Then I'm going to combine this negative 4x and this negative 4x. Those also would cancel. It's getting kind of nice now. Then I have a 4 plus a 12, which is a 16, equals, on the other side, it doesn't look like anything can cancel, so I'm just going to bring down my 1x minus 6. Then all I have left to do is add the 6. 16 plus 6 is 22, equals x. So we just got to make sure that our answer can be a 22. So the restrictions say it can't be a negative 3 and it can't be a 2. So that is definitely an answer. All right, end of page 2.